What if you could take timeless, kind of folksy wisdom about how people work and smash it together with cutting-edge, Nobel Prize-winning science of the mind? Well, that's exactly what we're doing today. We're going to put Dale Carnegie's advice from way back in 1937 right up against the modern psychology of Daniel Kahneman. And you know what? You're going to be amazed at how one basically proves the other. It's wild.
I mean, we've all wondered about this, right? You see someone who's just so persuasive. Is it some kind of magical gift? A secret trick they know? The truth is, it really just comes down to what's happening inside our brains when someone is trying to convince us of something. And once you understand that, whoa, it's like getting the user's manual for the human mind.
So this right here, this was apparently Benjamin Franklin's secret to success. And it's a principle that Dale Carnegie basically built his entire philosophy on. Now I know it sounds simple, right? Almost kind of quaint, old-fashioned. But what if I told you that modern cognitive science actually proves this isn't just nice advice, that it's actually a high-level psychological technique? Yeah, for real.
All right, so here's the journey we're about to take. First, we'll look at the art of influence. Then we'll get into the mind's two systems. After that, we'll see why criticism backfires, how to go about hacking human perspective, and talk about the currency of importance. And finally, we'll tie it all together with an operating manual for humans. We'll start with Carnegie's classic art, then jump to Kahneman's science, and then that's where the real magic happens, when we merge them. You're going to see the science behind why criticism just doesn't work, how to kind of hack someone's perspective, and uncover the one thing that every single person values. It's going to be good.
All right, Section 1, The Art of Influence. Let's talk about Dale Carnegie. His book from 1937, How to Win Friends and Influence People, became this global phenomenon. And the reason why is that it wasn't some stuffy academic theory. Nope, it was a practical handbook, just filled with real-world techniques that people could use right away to make their relationships, their careers, their whole lives better.
Okay, part 2, the mind's two systems. So now let's jump way forward in time to Daniel Kahneman. This guy is a psychologist who actually won a Nobel Prize for his work, and his book, Thinking Fast and Slow, totally gave us this revolutionary new map of the mind. He basically argued that we don't have just one single unified consciousness. Instead, we have two very, very different systems running this show.
And here they are. You've got System 1 and System 2. Think of System 1 as your gut reaction. It's fast, it's automatic, it's emotional, it's totally intuitive. Then there's System 2. That's your conscious mind. It's slow, deliberate, logical, and it takes real effort. Now, here is the most crucial part of this whole thing. System 1 is the main character in our story. It is in charge almost all the time, making these instant judgments, while the lazy System 2 only kicks in when things get really tough.
So, do you need proof of just how powerful and honestly how blind System 1 can be? Well, look no further than the famous invisible gorilla experiment. In this study, people are told to use their deliberate System 2 to count how many times a basketball is passed. They're focusing so hard on that task that their automatic System 1 completely ignores a person in a full-on gorilla suit walking right through the middle of the scene. And get this, they don't just forget seeing the gorilla, they never consciously see it in the first place. It is an absolutely stunning example of how System 1 shapes our reality by just deciding what's important enough for us to even notice.
Okay, Section 3, why criticism backfires. So let's bring these two worlds together, right? Carnegie's art and Kahneman's science. Carnegie's very first, #1 principle is don't criticize, condemn, or complain. And for decades, that just seemed like simple, kind advice. Just be nice. But Kahneman's work, it shows us the powerful scientific reason why that advice is so incredibly effective.
And to illustrate this point, Carnegie doesn't just use average, everyday examples. No, he goes straight to the top, notorious criminals. I mean, look at these names, Two Gun Crowley, Al Capone. Here's the crazy part. None of them believed they were bad guys. In their own minds, they had perfectly good justifications for every single thing they did. They genuinely saw themselves as the heroes of their own stories.
And this is where Kahneman's work gives us the scientific why. He has this concept called YSIAT. It's a bit of an acronym, and it stands for What You See Is All There Is. Basically, it means our quick-thinking System 1 builds a complete, coherent story using only the information it has right in front of it, and it totally ignores anything it doesn't know. So think about what happens when you criticize someone. You're not just questioning their actions, you are attacking the entire reality their brain has carefully constructed. Their System 1 sees that as a threat and boom, instantly puts up a defensive shield. Logic, reason, none of it's getting through.
All right, Section 4, Hacking Human Perspective.
So if a direct attack is just a dead end, then what's the alternative? Well, Carnegie's answer was to try and see the world entirely from the other person's point of view. Now, he didn't have all the fancy scientific language for it, but what he was describing was basically a way to hack into their System 1.
Here's a classic Carnegie story that shows this perfectly. His landlord tried to triple his rent, so instead of arguing about what he wanted, what did he do? He framed the entire conversation around the manager's interests. He literally wrote down a list of the advantages and disadvantages for the manager. It was all about the manager's potential gains and losses, not his own.
And the result? Absolutely incredible. That 300% rent hike, he got it negotiated down to just 50%. And the best part is, Carnegie never argued or complained even once. All he did was change the frame of the conversation. So, what's the science that makes a simple little reframe like that so incredibly powerful?
Well, it's something Kahneman calls the anchoring effect. See, our minds have this weird tendency to latch on to the very first piece of information we get. There was this one study where a totally random number from a Wheel of Fortune, like 10 or 65, dramatically influenced people's guesses on a completely unrelated question. It's wild. And that's exactly what Carnegie did. By listing the manager's advantages first, he anchored the entire conversation to a positive frame. That made the manager's System 1 way more open to a good outcome for Carnegie.
Okay, Section 5, the currency of importance. This all leads us to what might just be Carnegie's master key, the universal, fundamental human need to feel important and appreciated. He believed this one single thing was the most powerful motivator of all.
And he wasn't alone in thinking this. The great philosopher William James called it the deepest principle in human nature. Notice the word he used, a craving. It's not just something we want, it's something we desperately need. It really is a kind of psychological currency that we all trade in every single day.
And it's a currency that pays really, really well. Take Charles Schwab. He was one of the first $1 million a year executives. We're talking over $3,000 a day back in the early 20th century. And he claimed his massive salary wasn't for his knowledge of steel, it was for his ability to arouse enthusiasm in people through appreciation and praise. But why? Why does this work so profoundly on our brains?
Well, once again, Kahneman science gives us the answer. He says we basically have two selves. There's the experiencing self, which lives in the moment-to-moment reality. But then there's the remembering self, and this one's the storyteller. It's the one that decides which moments are worth keeping and which ones get thrown out. And here's the key. When you give someone sincere praise, you create this powerful, positive peak moment. The remembering self grabs onto that highlight. It doesn't really care about the average boring Tuesday. It cares about that one incredible moment of feeling important. And that memory is what drives our future decisions and our entire feeling about a person.
Okay, last section, an operating manual for humans. So when you put all of this together, what do you really get? Well, you get something that looks an awful lot like a user's guide for human interaction.
I mean, just think about it. Dale Carnegie, with no fMRIs, no modern brain scans, no huge psychological studies, he wrote a stunningly accurate manual for communicating directly with System 1. All of his advice lines up perfectly with the science we know today. Don't criticize? That's because you're fighting WSAIT. See their perspective? That's how you set a new anchor. And give sincere appreciation? Well, you're creating a powerful, lasting memory for their remembering self. He essentially reverse-engineered the code of human influence decades before science caught up.
Ultimately, understanding how our minds actually work, all the shortcuts, the biases, the two systems that are constantly dueling for control, it really is a kind of superpower. Carnegie saw it as a tool for creating harmony and success, and now the science proves he was absolutely right. So I guess the only question left for you is, how are you going to use it?
Subscribe now for more book summaries.